The events described in this video took place in 2008 in Auburn, Alabama, USA. Although 15 years have passed since then, the final word in Lauren Burk's case has not yet been pronounced. Lauren Ashley Burk was born on December 30, 1989, in Marietta, Georgia. Her parents, James Burk and Vivian Gershon, later divorced. Lauren had a sister, Jacqueline Burk, and a brother, Chad Burk. After high school, Lauren enrolled at Auburn University, where she studied graphic design, was an active member of the Delta Gamma sorority, played lacrosse, and actively participated in the university community. Friends described her as an excellent student, well-liked, always smiling, happy, and helpful. Still in high school, Lauren began dating a guy named Sean McQuaid. Both enrolled at Auburn University after graduation and continued their relationship. Despite being focused on education, they planned a future together. On the morning of March 4, 2008, Lauren had breakfast with her boyfriend Sean. At 11 a.m., she went to class and then called her father, James, to discuss plans for spring break and a visit to the dentist. After the conversation with her father, she went to Sean's dorm, where she stayed until the evening. At 8:30 p.m., she had a meeting with her classmate Michael in the library to work on a project together. As she left Sean's room around 8 p.m., it was dark outside. Her car, a black 2001 Honda Civic, was parked near the dorm, and she headed towards it. That was the last time Sean saw Lauren. Michael, whom Lauren was supposed to meet at the library, started calling her when she didn't show up. However, Lauren did not answer. For some reason, he continued calling several times until he heard Lauren's voice on the other end. She said she wouldn't go to the library because she had forgotten about the appointment and then hung up. Around 9 p.m., the police received a call about an injured girl seen lying on the road between Farmville Baptist Church and Route 280 on Highway 147. It was Lauren. Drivers stopped their cars, blocking traffic in both directions. Lauren was lying on her back in the middle of the road, with serious injuries and only socks on her feet. At 9:12 p.m., the first police car arrived, finding Lauren already unconscious. A few minutes later, paramedics arrived, and as they transported Lauren to the ambulance, her pulse was barely palpable. At 9:35 p.m., Lauren was taken to East Alabama Medical Center, where doctors tried to save her life. 8 minutes before, at 9:27 p.m., 911 dispatchers received multiple reports of a car fire on Auburn University's campus. Firefighters and police were immediately sent to the address provided by the callers. Unable to find the owner of the burning car among the curious students drawn to the fire, the police checked the plates and discovered that the owner of the burned car was James Burk, a resident of Georgia. James Burk is Lauren's father. The police contacted him by phone and found out that the true owner of the burned Honda was his daughter, Lauren, who attended Auburn University. James immediately asked what was wrong with his daughter, but the police had no information. They didn't know where Lauren was and informed James that no one was inside the burning car. After speaking with the officer, James began calling his daughter's cell phone, but she did not answer, increasing his anxiety. Unable to contact Lauren, James first called his daughter's friends, but none of them knew her whereabouts or about the car fire. He then called his ex-wife, Vivian Gershon, Lauren's mother, hoping she might know where their daughter could be. Lauren's mother also knew nothing. At 9:40 p.m., Vivian called her daughter's boyfriend, Sean. That's how Sean learned that Lauren was missing and that her car had been set on fire. Sean called mutual acquaintances of Lauren, trying to find out if anyone had seen her that night. He found out that she had canceled a meeting at the library, claiming to have forgotten. While friends and family tried to figure out where Lauren had gone, doctors at East Alabama Medical Center struggled to keep her alive. As Lauren was brought in unconscious, without personal belongings or documents, the doctors did not know her name. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, they could not save Lauren's life. She was pronounced dead about an hour after being admitted to the medical unit. The cause of her death was a single gunshot wound that pierced both lungs. Experts concluded that the gun barrel was only a few inches from Lauren's skin at the time of the shot. Comparing the situation in the hospital with the burned car on campus, the police quickly realized that the victim who could not be saved by the doctors was Lauren Burk. On the next day, March 5, 2008, James Burk identified his daughter's body after traveling from Atlanta. The news of Lauren's death quickly spread across the campus. Auburn University issued a statement about Lauren Burk's death, urging students and staff to take extra care on and off campus but assuring that the campus was safe. The Delta Gamma Society also issued a statement about what fraternity representatives called an unexpected and disturbing crime. The society urged the Auburn branch sisters to fully cooperate with detectives as they tried to understand what happened. While Lauren's family and friends mourned, the police tried to figure out who took her life, how the car fire was related to it, and whether other students should be on alert. Both the location along the road where Lauren Burk was found and the area around her car were processed for evidence. "We're employing every possible resource to find the person responsible for this crime," said Auburn police spokesperson Captain Tom Stouffer. Auburn, Alabama, is a relatively quiet student community, and we take these things seriously. If someone gets hurt or dies, we all feel it, and we won't rest until we find the perpetrator, Stouffer added. Alabama Governor Bob Riley offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in the Burke case. Lauren's burned car was taken to the Auburn Police Department. State forensic lab investigators and officers from the State Fire Chief's office examined the wreckage of the burned interior of the car. They found pieces of burned clothing, Lauren's melted digital camera, and the car owner's manual. A .38 caliber bullet was found under the front seat, suggesting that the car's interior was the crime scene, and the perpetrator set it on fire to destroy evidence. Detectives interviewed Lauren's family, friends, and boyfriend, but none of them could identify a single person who wished to harm Lauren and was capable of doing so. Upon learning that before her death, Lauren was in Sean's dormitory, investigators searched his room but found nothing linking him to the crime. After talking to Michael, whom Lauren was supposed to meet at the library, detectives learned that when Lauren answered the phone, he heard a noise similar to that of a moving car. At the same time, it was discovered that someone had used Lauren's bank card multiple times shortly after she was found on the road. The person with Lauren's card was likely involved in the incident, and the police began to search for them. However, events soon took an unexpected turn. Less than 3 days after Lauren's death, at 9:55 a.m. on March 7, 2008, in the Walmart supermarket parking lot in Newnan, Georgia, about 75 miles from Auburn, an African-American man attacked a 72-year-old woman as she entered her car. The attacker hit her on the head, threatened her, and ordered her to get into the passenger seat. He himself got into the driver's seat and tried to leave the parking lot quickly but realized that a witness to the attack was following him, talking on the phone. The thought that the person might be calling the police led the assailant to return to the Walmart parking lot. He stopped, got out of the stolen vehicle, ran to a nearby silver Chrysler Sebring, got in, and fled the scene hastily. A few hours later, four police officers chased the Chrysler at high speed towards Columbus, in western Georgia. The driver did not respond at all to commands to stop, putting other road users at risk during the pursuit. At one point, the officers observed the Chrysler's driver throwing an object out of the window. One of the pursuit teams stopped and searched for the object. The police found a .38 caliber revolver by the side of the road. As the pursuit continued, at some point, the assailant's vehicle broke down, and smoke emerged from under the hood. The driver abruptly stopped on the road and opened the door. Then, a police officer who was in pursuit on a motorcycle collided with the open door. After the collision, the officer was thrown over the motorcycle handlebars and fell to the pavement, fortunately without serious injuries. The location where the assailant stopped was in a wooded area, and it was into the forest that he ran to escape. However, the police quickly caught up with him and handcuffed his hands. Courtney Luro Lockhart was born on October 20, 1984. According to his family, he was a nice and fun guy until he joined the U.S. Army. He was deployed to Iraq in 2004, where he returned transformed in 2005. His mother said he was no longer the Courtney she knew. Courtney used to be a cheerful person, but after returning from Iraq, he never smiled again, wouldn't let anyone stand behind him, and sometimes hid in the closet or under the bed. In 2006, Lockhart and his girlfriend, from whom he had separated at the time, had a daughter. Also in 2006, he was tried in military court for assaulting other soldiers, using illegal substances, and deserting his unit without permission. He spent 7 months in detention before being dishonorably discharged from the Army in December 2006. As 2008 approached, Lockhart was described as increasingly unruly. He barely bathed, stopped visiting his daughter, and was heavily addicted to illegal substances. Starting from February 2008, he committed a series of robberies. Except for one robbery at a convenience store, his methods were always the same. He approached the victim from behind as she entered her car in the parking lot, threatened her with a weapon, demanded her purse, and attempted to take possession of the car. One of these crimes ended up taking Lauren Burk's life. Lockhart's series of assaults stopped on March 7, 2008, after he attacked a 72-year-old woman and failed to escape a police pursuit. After his arrest, Courtney Lockhart, 23 years old, was taken to the police station, where he confessed that he was the one who kidnapped and took Lauren Burk's life. The interrogation was recorded on video and became a key piece of evidence in the trial, along with Lauren's personal belongings, such as her iPod and bank cards, which were found in his car. He gave a detailed description of the events of the day he kidnapped Lauren. It was Tuesday, March 4, 2008. Lockhart woke up in his silver Chrysler Sebring, where he had spent the night not far from the East Alabama Medical Center. He needed money, so he started driving around Auburn in search of another victim. It's worth noting that all the people he attacked were women, none of them were men. His search led him to the Auburn University campus, where he parked next to student dormitories. He spent several hours sitting in his car observing the students. Around 8 p.m., he noticed a girl approaching the parked car next to him and opening the door calmly. It was Lauren. Without much thought, Lockhart grabbed his revolver and approached Lauren from behind, poking her with the gun's tip. He asked how much money she had with her, and when he didn't get an answer, he pushed Lauren into the front passenger seat and sat behind the wheel. According to Lockhart, Lauren didn't say anything but screamed in fear. When she finally calmed down, she took $200 from her purse, handed it to him, and begged him to let her go. However, instead of leaving, he ordered Lauren to take off her clothes at gunpoint. Hearing threats, Lauren agreed, remaining only in her socks. According to Lockhart, he did this for a reason. He thought that without clothes, she wouldn't try to escape. Lockhart began driving through the streets of Auburn, always with one hand on the wheel and the other holding Lauren at gunpoint. She tried to dissuade him from committing the crime, promising to help him overcome the difficulties he was facing. As they drove along Highway 147, Lauren opened the door to jump out of the moving car, at which point Lockhart said he accidentally fired. As we now know, the bullet pierced both of Lauren's lungs, and she also suffered injuries from the fall. She managed to signal to passing drivers before her strength failed, and she lost consciousness. Lockhart told investigators that he parked outside the church and watched as cars began to stop next to Lauren lying on the pavement. Realizing that the police would arrive any minute, he fled hastily, planning to destroy the evidence he had left in the car. He drove to a gas station, bought a can of gasoline with Lauren's bank card, and poured the interior of the car with fuel. Then, he got into the car and drove to the campus where he had kidnapped Lauren, as his Chrysler was parked there. According to Lockhart, while driving, he became dizzy from the gasoline fumes, so he lowered the windows to allow air from the street to enter. One might ask why he didn't drive first to the campus and pour gasoline on Lauren's car there, why he drove into a powder keg, as a short circuit or spark could have ignited the car with him inside. Perhaps this has something to do with Lockhart's mental issues or low IQ, but we'll talk about that later. Upon reaching the campus, Courtney took $46, an iPod, and Lauren's bank cards from the car before setting it on fire and fleeing in his Chrysler. He drove to a gas station, where he paid for the fuel with Lauren's money, then returned to the campus to see if the car had burned completely. Investigators began to question whether Lockhart's entire statement was true. They speculated that Lockhart forced Lauren to undress not so she wouldn't escape, as he claimed, but for a completely different purpose. Additionally, investigators doubted that Lockhart shot Lauren accidentally. It seemed unlikely given Courtney's experience in the army, where he surely learned how to handle a weapon. It seemed more logical that Lauren realized Lockhart wouldn't let her go and decided that her only chance of escape was to jump. She opened the door, and as she jumped out of the car, Lockhart shot her. Ballistic tests confirmed that the bullet found in Lauren's car was fired from the gun Lockhart threw out the window while trying to escape the police pursuit. Furthermore, experts conducted tests and ruled out the possibility of an accidental shot. The trigger had to be pulled with enough force to make the shot. Lauren's family and friends bid her farewell on March 9th. On the same day, investigators questioned Lockhart for the second time. The next day, he was formally charged multiple times in the case of Lauren Burk. The trial began on November 8, 2010. Lockhart's lawyers claimed that their client had a mental illness due to military service and that the shot at Lauren was accidental. According to court documents, Lockhart pleaded not guilty by reason of mental defect or insanity. The court heard testimony from a psychologist who testified that Lockhart had an IQ of 86, below average, displayed some symptoms related to military combat but did not have post-traumatic stress disorder, and that Lockhart was immature and not thinking clearly. Although the state tried to present evidence of Lockhart's other crimes and his dishonorable behavior in the Army, the trial judge excluded this evidence after the guilt phase of the trial. The sentencing phase immediately followed the guilt phase of the trial. Lockhart presented witness testimonies and evidence in an attempt to portray himself as a war hero mentally disturbed by combat and the death of his commanding officer. The jury issued a special verdict in which an additional aggravating factor was taking a person's life in the course of kidnapping. The jury voted 12-0, recommending a sentence of life imprisonment without parole. The trial judge later disagreed with the jury's opinion and sentenced Lockhart to death. In a 28-page sentencing order, the judge explained why he disagreed with the jury's opinion. He concluded that the kidnapping weighed heavily in favor of the death penalty. The victim was alone, unarmed, and chosen by Lockhart at random. The kidnapping is even more serious because she was taken from a university campus, a place where students should feel safe, and forced into her own car. Lockhart forced her to undress and held her at gunpoint to prevent her escape. The court also emphasized that the jury was not aware of Lockhart's series of crimes and the true nature of his military service. Although the jury heard testimony about Lockhart's service, they were not fully aware of Lockhart's extensive military disciplinary record, the judge wrote. The court argued that if the jury were aware of the additional facts known to the court, their sentencing recommendation would likely have been different. 15 years have passed since Lauren's death, and Lockhart is still on death row in Alabama, not giving up on trying to appeal his sentence. After his conviction and death sentence, he appealed to an Alabama court, which upheld the sentence in August 2013. In April 2014, the Alabama Criminal Appeals Court denied Lockhart's request for a new trial. He then appealed to the Alabama Supreme Court, but in September 2014, his request was again denied. In January 2015, Lockhart appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. In April of the same year, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his petition. In 2018, Lockhart made another attempt to challenge the sentence. Lawyers from a human rights organization representing him tried to convince the court that the lawyers who defended Lockhart in 2010 had mishandled the case. Although there were some flaws in Lockhart's defense in 2010, it did not change the outcome, with the death sentence being again confirmed in April 2021 by the Alabama Criminal Appeals Court. Lauren's parents said they would never give up and would do everything in their power to prevent Lockhart's death sentence from being overturned. Courtney Lockhart gave my daughter the death penalty. There's no reason he shouldn't have the death penalty, said Burk's father, Jim. He didn't give her a second chance, he shouldn't have a second chance, said Lauren's mother, Vivian. To this day, Courtney Lockhart remains on death row in Alabama.